Hello everyone, I'm Rick and thanks for joining me. Once again, I'd like to ask you to hit the subscribe button and give the video a like to help the channel grow. It really does help a lot. A few months ago, we took a look at the Lin 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 DS300 by SMSL. Today, we'll be looking at its larger cousin, the Lin 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 DS300. And I'd like to thank SMSL for providing a sample at no charge, so you will see the sponsored video banner above. I call the DS300 the DS200's larger cousin instead of its big brother because the DS300 gets an ESS DAC chip instead of the dual Cirrus chips inside of the DS200, leading to a very different sound. Let's go through the specs. The DS300 uses an ESS ES9039 Q2M DAC chip with an XMOS XU316 for PCM up to 32-bit 768 and DSD to 512. It includes Bluetooth support for aptX HD as well as LDAC. It has 4 OPA 1612 op amps. The line output is at 5 volts on the XLRs and 2.5 volts on the RCAs, with headphone output of up to 3 watts at 16 ohms, 1.5 watts at 32 ohms. The DS300 has 3 gains, with a low at minus 3.3 decibel pad, medium at 0 gain, and high at plus 9.5 decibels. THD plus N at up to minus 122.5 decibels on the XLRs, and a signal to noise at up to 129 decibels on the XLRs as well. Now let's take a closer look. First, we start up on top with our input selector and power button. Under that, we go to our LEDs that tell us our status. And here we have coaxial optical, Bluetooth, USB, a DSD indicator, and an MQA indicator. Going down over here, we have our mood light, and I'll turn that on in a second. Under that, we have our 4.4mm balanced headphone output, followed by our 6.35mm single-ended headphone output. Over in the center of the DS300, we have our output, and we have headphone out up on top, line out if we bring it down. Under that, we have our headphone gain from low to high. We get a second little mood LED that cuts across here, which again I'll turn on in a second. And finally, we have our volume, and this is on a 68mm fader, and this fader is super smooth, and I love the feel of it. Especially compared to the DS200, this one in comparison is super rough, kind of a jagged feeling. Over here, silky. It feels like it should be on an SSL mixing board. Excellent feel. Now we'll head over to the rear. To the far left, we have our IEC inlet with power rocker. We do have an internal switching power supply here, no power brick needed. To the right of the power switch, we start with our digital inputs. The first one, we have our Bluetooth antenna. Under that, Toslink optical in, followed by coaxial digital in, and finally USB, and I hate to still see this. Why USB-B? I have no idea why we're using this port here. There's no reason why this should not have been USB-C. But yeah, this one's disappointing here. I wish they would switch to USB-C on everything at this point. Why USB-B? It boggles my mind. Over to our analog output, we have a set of RCAs as well as a set of XLRs. I've plugged power in, flipped the rocker, and the DS300 is now on. Our source is selected at optical. When the volume is open and we tap on the power button, we can cycle to Bluetooth, USB, coaxial, back to optical. However, when we have the volume all the way closed, so no volume going through, the button changes to a selection of the lighting. Here we can select to turn on our mood light and the little LED that comes across here. A lot brighter LED. The mood lighting changes colors, or only the small little bar that comes across. And back to off. So that's a nice feature. I personally don't like loud LEDs, and I love having the option to defeat any of the lights. Now to power down, we do have to hold for 3 seconds before releasing. Our power indicator goes to an orange. Once again, a tap will not wake it. You do have to press and hold. Although I would have preferred this to be a tap to power on. At $188, the DS300 is in a class above the $109 DS200. So I compared the DS300 with the SMSL C200 Pro at $200, currently $179, as well as the Fosse Audio ZH3 at $200 as well. Now, one feature that you will see missing from the DS300 is that it is the only one of these three without a remote control. so you will need a preamp with a remote control if you like to control it at a distance. The C200 Pro uses the same ES9039 Q2M DAC chip as the DS300, while the ZH3 uses the AKM4493 SEQ. First is headphone amps. The DS300 and the C200 Pro both output the same 1.5 watts at 32 ohms. While the ZH3 outputs quite a bit more, it is more powerful at 2.5 watts at 32 ohms. But that will only matter if you have very difficult to drive headphones. You'll have no problem with any of these three driving dynamic drivers or IEMs. On to listening. The DS300 has more layers and spaces them more deeper in the soundstage than the C200 Pro, equal to that of the ZH3. However, the C200 Pro, while not as spacious in the center, does give you a wider soundstage than the other two. Vocal placement is the biggest difference in these DACs. The DS300 presents slightly forward, the C200 Pro slightly less forward, and the ZH3 more recessed and more relaxed in comparison. Imaging with the DS300 is equal to that of the C200 Pro. Great natural placement, whereas the ZH3 is slightly more focused, but not pinpoint like more clinical DACs. The bass is neutral, with nothing jumping out at you with the DS300 and the C200 Pro, while the ZH3's bass is slightly thinner. However, the ZH3 is the only one of these three with tone controls, so an easy fix there. The treble on the DS300 matches the ZH3, while the C200 Pro is slightly brighter, but still not offensive to my ears. So ultimately on sound quality, it really is personal preference. All three do sound great. And I think the main reason that you would go with the Lin 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 DS300 would be for its aesthetics. It's look in your space around your desktop. It does have character, it's built great, and the analog controls are simple and fun, and you'll love that fader. Well, that's all I have for you on this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.